Hi, I'm Lelia Lewis, and welcome to another edition of New Day, New Beginnings. Now, I got a question for you today, and today's question is: have you ever seen a rainbow? Well, I'm sure many of us have on a few occasions, but it is truly a beautiful sight. Now, we've all seen one, but have you ever asked yourself, or have you even wondered where it came from or why? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. And the title of today's lesson is The Rainbow. What a beautiful sight. But where did it come from and what does it really mean? Now, this lesson is going to stem from Noah having to build the ark. I know a lot of us know that story, but we're going to get into the rainbow part. But first, the ark. That's where this all began because of the ark and the trials. We're going to go over some of the trials that Noah had to face trying to do this, what God told him to do. Not only was he ridiculed by the town people, or they were laughing at him and saying, well, he's crazy, don't listen to him. He was trying to warn people there's going to be a flood. But they blew it off, because they were making fun of him. And who built a boat on sand? Oh, they just had a field day with him. But not only that, his own family. His own family was doubtful. They were full of doubt, and that bothered him too, because now he's got to make them understand what he's trying to say. And it's not always easy when your own family doesn't quite go along with the program, so to speak. But at any rate, verse 1 in Genesis chapter 6, it says later on down the line, it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth that daughters were born. So, of course, as time went on, the sons of God saw the daughters and they took them as their wives and they bare children and so forth and so on. But as time went on, more and more people were on the earth. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with man. And what did he mean by that? To strive in this context mean to quarrel. I'm not going to keep arguing with these people because they were kind of, how you say, getting out of hand, so to speak. He says, why? Because they are also of flesh, meaning they want to do what they want to do, period. That's what that means. But he says, but yet, even so, he says, their days shall be 120 years. Wow. That was back then. 120 years. Now, verse 5 says, but the more God looked, the more he saw, you know, that so much wickedness going on. It was getting worse and worse. In verse 5, he says, God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of his thoughts in his heart were only evil continually. That means they didn't think about anything to help anybody else, to benefit anybody else. All they thought about was what they wanted to do. And you know what? We see a lot of that today ourselves. In today's world, we see it right now. This is nothing new. It's the same old stuff, just different people doing it. So, anyway, it says, and it repented God. And when it says repented, that it, it was bothering him so bad that it made him have a change of heart, mind, and direction, because now he's seeing how horrible the people are becoming. And it says it grieved him at his heart. It grieved God. They're giving God grief is severe pain. Grief is sorrow and suffering. And now as God looks down and see everybody's just going ballistic. And it grieved him. And he said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of this earth. That's how upset, because everything was going haywire. It says, both man and beast, every creeping thing, the fowl of the air, for it repenteth me that I even made him. He changed his whole mind, and he was sorry that he even created man. Because he says, the earth, verse 11, the earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And what is corruption? And what do we see today? Corruption simply means going from good to bad and bad to worse in morals, manners, and actions. And we are totally in a corrupt world today. Again, same old stuff, different people. So let's read on. God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt. For all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. He couldn't take anymore. And that's when he told Noah to build the ark. He was real specific. He gave him all the dimensions, all the measurements, the design, make it 3 stories high, what to build it out of. He gave him explicit directions. Now, Noah's going to have a hard time just trying to, I guess, get his family even to understand, his wife, his sons, to believe and understand what he's telling them about the ark that God told him to build now, about the flood that's going to come. And then he just was having such a hard time trying to convince them, especially the boys, because they had already begun building their own houses and they couldn't understand the concept, period. And they just, they just refused to give up the fact that, well, we're just going to build our houses anyway, because they just didn't believe. Even his wife, she had her doubts. And she even said, he said, you don't believe me, do you? She says, I believe in you. I believe you believe it. But you know what? That was important, because she said, well, what are you going to do if the boys don't help you? And you know what he said? He said, I'll build it myself. And he did. He began working on it daily from sun up till sundown. And you know what? They used to have dinner together. Now there's only one empty chair at the table. Everybody's still having dinner. But after a while, his wife saw how diligently he was doing this. And she could tell by his diligence that there's got to be something to this. So she knew he believed in what he was doing, and it gave her the belief in him. So she began to work with him to build the ark. So, and this just shows how much she believed in Noah. Now, there's 2 chairs empty at the kitchen table. The mother and the father working side by side, building the ark from sun up till sundown. But you know what? After a few days, when the boys saw how hard the mother was working, they began to think about this, and they were saying, talking among themselves, and now they're thinking, well, what if? I mean, what if there is going to be a flood? And what if it does consume the whole earth? So after they talked about it, they began themselves to go out and help and build the ark. Now, let's go back here. And what did I want to? I had something I wanted to say. Um, okay, where are we? I want to go back to chapter 6. I want to go to verse 17. And verse 17 says, this is God speaking. He's saying, behold, I do bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, wherein is breath of life from under the heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die. But thee, meaning Noah, he's telling Noah, but thee will I establish my covenant. So now is when he's beginning to tell Noah he's going to have a covenant with him. You're going to go into the ark, you, your wife, their wives, and every living thing of all flesh, two of every sort. And that means the animals. And you are to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and they shall be female. And to gather enough food and supplies for all that'll be in the ark. And Noah did this according to God's command. Now let's go to chapter 7, because now now we're getting to the ark is almost finished. So verse 1 in chapter 7 says, and the Lord said unto Noah, come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. So he's letting him know that God's letting him know you will be safe because I see righteousness in you. And as they were coming to a finish of the ark, he said in verse 4, for 7 days from now, I will cause it to rain upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. And every living substance that I have made will I destroy off the face of the earth. And Noah did according to what God had commanded him. And Noah was 600 years old. And he and his family entered the ark with all the animals. And in the 600th year of Noah's life, on the second month, the 17th day, that's February 2nd, 17th, when Noah was 600 years old, the same day, the fountains of the great deep, meaning under the ocean, broke up, and the windows of heaven opened up. And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And in that same day, Noah and his family and all their wives went into the ark. So that meant there they were for 40 days and 40 nights. Noah, his family, and every beast of every kind, two of each, male and female. And they that went in were male and female of flesh, as God had commanded him to do, and the Lord shut them in. And the flood was 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased, and it bare up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth. And the waters prevailed, and they were increasing greatly upon the earth. And the ark went up upon the face of the waters, and the waters continued to prevail exceedingly upon the earth. And all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and then the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl, of cattle, of beasts, and of every creeping thing that crept upon the earth, and every man. All in whose nostrils was the breath of life, all that was in the dry land died. And every living substance was destroyed, which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle and creeping things and fowl of the heaven. They were all destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, him and they that were with him in the ark. But God remembered Noah in the ark. He remembered he was there, and he made a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters receded. And in chapter 8, it says, the fountains also of the deep under the ocean, and the windows of heaven stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. And the waters returned from off the earth continually. Gradually, the waters started to leave the earth. And after the end of 150 days, the waters abated. And abated means it ended. 150 days is how long it stayed on the earth. And the waters at that time, the ark now rested on the mountain of Ararat. Now that was in the 7th month. That's July. That's July 17th. The ark rested upon mountains of Ararat. And the waters continued to decrease until the 10th month. That was October. And in the 10th month, on the first day of October, the tops of the mountains were seen again. And it came to pass at the end of the 40 days that Noah opened the window to the ark. And he sent forth a raven. And the raven went to and fro and to and fro until the waters were dried up from the earth. And he also sent a dove. He sent a dove to see if the waters had dried up off the face of the ground. But when he sent the dove came back. The dove came back, and her feet couldn't touch the ground yet. So he stayed another 7 days. And then again, he sent forth the dove. And the dove came back. The dove came back in the evening, and in her mouth she had an olive leaf. And Noah knew then that the waters had abated from the earth. But he stayed another 7 days, and sent the dove one more time. But that time, the dove never returned. And in verse 13, it says, it came to pass in the 600th year, the first of the year, that the waters were dried up from off the earth. And Noah removed the covering of the ark and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dried. And God spoke and said unto Noah, Go forth, go forth, he said, and take all the animals with you. Now let's go to where are you at? Verse 17, because this is where this is where God tells him now what he's going to do. Now, what Noah did once he walked out of the ark, he built a altar. He built an altar unto the Lord and made a burnt offering unto God. And look at verse 20. Verse 21 says, the Lord smelled the sweet savor. The Lord said in his heart, he said, I will never again curse the ground anymore for man's sake. For the imaginations of man's heart is evil from his youth. That means they're born evil. That's how we're born, with that nature. And he says, neither will I again smite, means to kill, will I smite any more of every living thing like I have already done. So that's just him letting him thinking to himself, I will never do that again. This will never happen again. He's promising himself even and Noah that he would never do this again. And then verse 9, let's go quickly to verse 9. I said, and God blessed Noah and his sons and said unto them, be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. Because nobody was there but them. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth and every fowl of the air, and upon all that move upon the earth, and the fish of the sea. Into your hands they are delivered. So this is God's promising Noah, that go about your business. Don't fear anything, because no matter what you come in contact with, no beast, no animal that you see will attack you, because they're going to be fearful of you. That's his protection for Noah and his family. They will deliver you, and I will deliver you. I meant to say, they will fear you, and I will deliver you from them, and them into your hands. And God spoke again and said to Noah and to his sons, in verse 8 and 9, he says, I establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you. So he's telling Noah that this covenant that I'm going to establish is going to be with you, and also every living creature that is with you that goes out of the ark. He says, I'm going to establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off anymore by the waters of the flood. He's telling Noah, I will never do this again. This is a covenant I'm going to make with you and all your future generations. A covenant is a binding agreement I'm making with you. I will never destroy the earth again with a flood. And God said, this is the token of the covenant which I make between you and me and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. And perpetual means ongoing, forever and ever. And I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of the covenant between me and the earth. The bow is the rainbow. And it shall come to pass when I bring a cloud over the earth that the bow shall be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of the flesh. And the waters shall no more become a flood. And the bow shall be in the clouds, and I will look up upon it, and I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, this is the token of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. There it is, the rainbow. And this was God's promise to Noah that the rainbow would be the token of the bond between him and the earth and every living creature therein for all generations. So when you look out and see the rainbow, now you know why it's there, where it came from, and what its purpose was. So now that you know where it came from and why and what its purpose is, maybe you could tell somebody else, maybe when you see the rainbow. But the other moral of this story is always trusting God, His word, His answers, His solutions. There's only one correct answer, and that's His word. Never mind what others are saying or thinking or how they're ridiculing you. When God gives you a direction, follow through. Constantly pray for strength to keep yourself going forward. Everything we saw here is happening now. There's violence everywhere. Nobody's thinking about God. Everybody's doing their own thing. God will supply whatever you need whenever you need it. All you have to do is pray. So the next time you see a rainbow, I hope you do remember this lesson. I hope you do. I hope you do, and I hope you are able to tell someone where it came from and what it really means. And I have a quick poem I want to share with you. It's called God's Creation, and I thought it would be, beneficial for today. April showers bring May flowers. We say that all the time, and that's just the beginning of the wondrous works we see in God's wild design. We can't begin to name them all, but let's give it a try. How about the sun, the moon, the stars, and the raindrops that fall from the sky? The birds that fly above the trees, squirrels and rabbits scampering about, butterflies with beautiful wings. These are just some of God's amazing things. Think of the mountains standing tall, the brooks, the streams, and the waterfalls. But I think his greatest creation by far was to mold and make us just as we are. But now that we're here, thanksgiving we must give and show how we love him by the way that we live. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. And my words for today are: don't focus on what's normal, focus on what's possible. And until next week, I'm Lelia Lewis. Thanks for joining me.